Hey, greetings, Jedi traders. David here of TradingFibs.com to bring you the daily trend recap for the indices, focusing on the TF Russell today for the last day of November, November 30th, 2015. As always, please seek financial advisement when trading with your money. These videos are for educational purposes only to support your knowledge in the market. See what's going through my head on any given day. Always make sure you have a solid trading plan and always manage your stop when placing a trade, and that is what we did. We rounded up the month of November. It was not all about the Russell today, as we will see here soon. The ES, NQ, and YM having some very nice trends today. Choosing to focus on the TF today. Hindsight 2020, not the best of choices, but hey, that was the choice for the day. Hey, looking out for the week ahead, we're looking at Beige Book, ECB monetary policy, OPEC. We got Fed speakers, FOMC coming up on December 15th, and quad witching contract rollover. So big month here as we roll out 2015. Hasn't really been a lackluster year, pretty much finishing up flat, and boy, it's been volatile. So let's get right into the Russell today and what was going through my head. This was the overnight action here on the Russell. Here we can see Eastern Standard Time around the 4 o'clock hour. Nice pop right there on a buy signal. T3 moving average crossover 534, the 5144. Again, you don't have the market internals of the tick count, but at least the market internals of the 20 tick and the 5144 to guide you, as many of the other futures charts don't or are not reliant on the tick count and the AD line for extra support. But hey, Fibonacci lines and a moving average on a bigger time frame can always help you here. And this is exactly what we had here on the TF, as we could see price action on the overnight. But it was all about the U.S. hours as we opened up. And let's take a look at the big picture for the Russell today. Again, not as pretty, a lot of chop action inside here. Knowing when to sit out of that, not that hard when you see it just kind of hugging the daily gap. Again, I want you to take notice of the big, long red bar, third one down here. This is the 20 tick. Same setup as the chart number 1 up on top with the T3 moving average. You don't see the moving averages. You just simply see the bar here. But the bar here is represented that the T3.5 is under the T3.10 and is on a bigger time frame. So this here is a market internal, as well as the 50 exponential moving average in the 144. So these, notice that for the majority of the session, that's right, price action was to the downside. But again, this little chop action. How do I stay out? How do I get in? Why would I stay? Why would I stay out? Those, you got to use a couple other indicators maybe to your liking. But the real two best setups right here, unfortunately, was not in the morning session. They happen to be in the afternoon session right here. As we can see, price action again on that or pre-market was already coming down. We'll go show you that first move right off the bat as the market opened up here at 9:30, and then just didn't seem to be able to get anywhere, but finally found a little bit of an opportunity to the downside. All right, let's jump right into setup number 1. As the market opened up right here, sell signal downside was the T3 moving average meeting up with the 534, so that was delayed. Again, first initial entry was on the crossover here. You had to run to the daily gap. We already mentioned before the 20 tick was in the red most of the session today. This is where it all started. Started right at the market open. If you go back to the big chart right here, you can see we're talking about these two charts. Let me show you that again. These two charts on the right-hand side, indicated by these two charts right at the bottom right here. And as you can see, this is just going to lead throughout the remainder of the session. 20 tick downside and 50 below 144, and that is the lesson that we look at every day. How do I stay in the trade that much longer? Again, no guarantee. Say you wouldn't have been stopped out here, but again, a nice entry. I didn't shade this for whatever reason. I didn't. Maybe I was looking at the daily gap here. I don't recall, but again, this was a nice entry, and perhaps hindsight, I might have shaded this. I don't recall what happened here. But again, if you see price action came down here below the daily gap, everything was in the red. So again, I probably would have kept this in shade, but I don't recall why I didn't. But let's move forward. But again, the focus here is on the red portion here, the 5144 at the bottom and the 20 tick range chart. So again, here we are, market open. price action already to the downside. Not a trade I would have gotten into or set up. You see, you had PMI coming out. You had pending home sales again. That had a little. That was a little bit of a market mover here, but again, the 20 tick was downside. The 50 below the 144. You could have jumped in.
1 minute before the release.
Excuse me,
Stand
brother. I
by.
still have my global news report. We'll go ahead and close that out. All right. So sell signal downside here, 50 below 144. T3 moving average is downside again from the market open. Sell signal down and right to the daily gap and close. So again, starting out the session with the long range and bigger time frames here on the right, noticing that the market internals were in the red, and that's exactly what market action did. Coming down here, this was about the PMI release time. Price action bounced up, came back up back above the daily gap. Notice the closing out the former session point of control, naked VPOC, and bouncing and fading right above that. Price action, you can see here on the 20 tick. As you see the bars come up, that's not necessarily a change in the market internal. Market internals are still in the red. T3 moving averages are crossed over. Now, question is are you going to sit in a trade? Let's say you jumped into the sell trade. Where's your stop at this point? Did you keep it all the way up here at the Globex high and able to withstand all the chop, knowing that price action might come down, or were you taken out? Most likely taken out, and you wait for a re-entry. Again, I'm not looking for a buy signal here, even though that's a valid signal crossover with the 534. But again, market internals are against you. I would prefer to see the 50, or I would prefer to see at least price action break above the 50 and 144 at this point before I would want to take a long. So what happens to price action? The first thing I do is I want to look at my Fibonacci line. This is post 30 minutes. This was, again, the draw from the low to the high. We see price action found support here on the 61.8 line on a 15-minute bar chart. This was right at market, again, pre-market, and then post-market open. Here we see price action we just saw came down. As you can see here on this chart, we're talking about this price action right here on the 15-minute chart, indicated by price action finally broke the 61.8. So in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, price action came down here, missed that setup. Okay, valid. Price action bounced up. Market internals downside. Price action moving up to the 50, 144. If this thing's going to come back downside, it's going to find some resistance here at the 50 and the 144. The 20 tick's going to stay downside. And as you can see, Fibonacci breaking that 61.8 is a trend change. And that's what we got here as we see price action. Again, this Fibonacci line was post 30 minutes. And as we move to an hour and 10 minutes, post 70 minutes, price action, that's right, had broken that 61.8. So now we have a new fib draw from the high to the low. And what did price action do? Came up here. Remember these two candles right here? Eventually, these two green candles came up, tested that 50%, and then price action was ready. That's right, ready to move back down. And it took a while through all that chop, even though this sell signal was a nice sell signal. You might have been taken out here. All it did is came down to the naked VPOC, chopped around here a little bit, but then right back in it. Here we are, back into the move as price action. You found that it resisted the 50% here on the Fibonacci and did exactly what it does best, is it faded right off the 50%, came down, kept in trend, T3 moving average crossover, and what a wonderful setup right there with the T3 moving averages, the 534, and already we've talked about the nice long trend of the 5144 and the T3 moving average on a higher time frame. This is a 20 tick range chart in the upper right hand corner. All right, so there we could see T3 TF now at the Euro close. Again, nice price action about 15 minutes prior to the Euro close. It should be around as we saw price action again, retesting that 50% line on the Fibonacci from the high to the low. Could not break that upside, so price action looked like it was bound to continue downside at this point. And also checking in with the AD line, another market internal, and until this price action was going to break below that zero, we weren't going anywhere. And so again, together with that TF were some amazing moves in that morning session. Right at the market European close here on the ES, we saw a sell signal to the downside. Again, I told you from the beginning, the ES, NQ, and YM looking much better than TF today, but again, same strategy. Here's your sell signal. 534 crossover again. Look at the long-term picture here on the YM this morning. It was 20 tick range chart was all in the red, and here at the bottom the 5144, making that a great valid trade to the downside, breaking the Globex low. And the NQ winner of the day. Here's the market open. You might have waited for the pullback, but nice clean entry on the sell signal down here. Pullback sell signal again, all possible trade management, or if you got stopped out on this one, which most likely would have happened, you got back in sell signal here, or you waited for a little bit better confirmation over here. Again, it was the 20 tick on the NQ that kind of was out of a trend here, but it was the 5144 that got you back in the trade and for the long haul to the downside. So 3 nice entries coinciding with the TF. It was pretty much late AM session that those 3 setups occurred. All right, so back to our TF. We're at right at post European close, coming up to the lunchtime. And here we are still holding on to that zero line. AD line could not break that zero. Still looking for the down move like we saw right from the beginning. And there it was. Finally, it came post lunchtime. That was the first initial move that we showed you back a couple slides ago. Daily gap, broke the naked VPOC. Again, the ES, NQ, and YM looked a lot better on this nice long downtrend. But again, the TF had a little bit of a go there. Bounced back up and right back in it. Sell signal downside. Again, this was the setup I was talking about back on the first chart. When I say I didn't shade that in, this was the setup. So not a bad setup, but again, most likely was stopped out here. And sell signal back, put you back in. Naked VPOC went to the Globex low. A little bit choppy here. If you had placed your stop at least above the swing size or a couple bars up, you would have been safe here, okay? If not, you were stopped out and you got some healthy ticks out of that. But it was the big picture, keeping that in mind. The 20 ticker on the Russell downside, the 50 still below the 144, keeping you in trend the entire time. And there it was, the AD line finally broke, the zero line coinciding in sync with the setup that you had right here on the Russell to the downside sell side. 50 below 144, 20 tick in the red, and there it was, the breaking downside of the AD line. And there she went, right down to the former VPOC from last week. Point of control, 1196.4. Found a little bit of support here, but again, keeping in mind, that's right, the big picture. 20 tick was downside, 50 below the 144. The mindset was in the red. And there you go. You had a pullback up to the 50% line on the Fibonacci. You draw yourself, that's your Fibonacci retracement. You draw yourself a fib projection, point A up here at the high, point B down here at the low to the pullback C, and now all of a sudden you have a trade management tool down to the bottom as you passed the 50%, got to the 100%, found a little rejection there, and then down to the next number, 1195.4, which pretty much was the line in the sand here, and that was Fibonacci target number 3. And again, what is the big picture? The big lesson that we go over to every day is these 2 charts. The 20 tick, the 10 tick on the ES, the 20 tick on the Russell. Here you could see the same idea. T3 moving averages were in the red from the majority of the session. Again, it was the same picture on all the indices today. You just had a little bit more chop here on the Russell in the mid-morning session that finally gave way here in the lunch hour. T3 moving averages had crossed over on the 10 tick, but the 20 tick and the 5144, it was all about red. And depending on your trade management strategy, where you placed your stop, kept you in the trade to the downside or offered you another opportunity for reentry, knowing that the technical bias was to the downside. Here we see the NQ have a nice resurgence again towards the later of the afternoon. As we know, today was the last day of the month. Price action was a little volatile towards the close. Here we could see this was post-lunch actually, NQ with a nice move to the upside again. Might not have been the best of entries because all you have is a T3 moving average and a 534 crossover. It took you a while for the market internals to catch up. This could have been nothing more than a pullback. Again, nothing traded here, just observance of what does it mean to be in trend. And when you're in a trend and when you're following, it's these bars, solid Heikin Ashi bars, tails up to keep you in the trade, together with the 534 and likewise the market internals on the bottom. If they're all in the green, we go higher. All right, let's get back to that Russell as we finish out the day. Price action here. Again, you saw the NQ moving up there during the lunchtime after that line down. Remember, 1196.4, 1195.4 was that Fibonacci target, 127. And there we go. We went right back up to Globex low. No setup here. It was all market internals to the downside. You saw an opportunity here as price action actually started to break. So here's a nice initial start to a setup. You got a buy signal here, you got a crossover here, and you got T3 moving average right there breaking upside above the 51.44. Even though the market internals are still to the downside, you see an opportunity here that says, all right, price is breaking away and I got a buy signal. You might get in the trade there above the Globex low. Unfortunately, it didn't really much go anywhere as the real bias. There you were. That was 216, and you want to go for it because that's right. Because price action is headed upwards. Maybe I'll get the early shot, but that was not in the cards because it turned right back on you. There's those two bars, but the bias, the technical bias, was still the downside. Look at that, 220 tick bars to fake you out maybe there on those two moves up, and it was all. This was the more powerful move. So there was another setup number 4 for the session. T3 moving averages, 534 crossover, 20 tick was downside, and the 50, there it is. 50 breaks below the 144 after that attempt to break above the 50 and the 144, and it was all to the downside after that. And as we closed out the session here, you could see the Fibonacci, that's right, it broke on that long draw, came back up to the 38% fib line, and faded with that move that you just saw right there. This move right here, coinciding with a Fibonacci. We had to draw another Fibonacci line, retracement from the high to the low mid-session, and there we were, found support at the 38% and faded right back down. So again, pairing the Fibonacci, how many times? 1, 2, 3, that's right, 3 times. Trying to make a go at it up here, no go. Again, I'm watching the Fibonacci line. Here's the Globex low. 11.99 was that? 11.99.1, and what are you watching? The 38% fib retracement, 11.98.8, okay? And you say, whoa, you know what? It's not breaking. It's not breaking that Fibonacci line yet, not closing above it, so I'm still looking to the downside entry, and that's exactly what you got here. You got a sell signal to the downside. So TF was setup number 4. And again, what else coincided? Market internal. Look at that. You attempted to get above that AD line, but no go, nowhere near that session. And as you can see, price action was pretty much hugging that 10-period moving average. And that's right, solid Heikin-Ashi bar tailed down to coincide, that's right, with the 38%. And right there with that move to the downside. So setup number 4, really nice move. All right, that's it. That concludes today's wrap for the TF. I want to go back to one chart I want you to focus on. It doesn't matter what chart, what market you're trading. It's these two market internals. You're not always going to have access to an AD line. You're not going to always have access to perhaps a tick count. But if you can use the T3 moving averages on a higher time frame, if you can use the 51.44 like I use on the bigger picture every day on my charts, focus on this. Use these to keep you in the trade, even for the long term. Everybody's got a different trade management style, but if you can keep your stop further back initially, knowing that price action, the long big term is all to the downside, you might be able to stay in the trade that much longer. All right, that concludes today's daily trend wrap-up for the Russell and the other indices. Feel free to stop by at tradingfibs.com or any of my social media outlets to obtain more information. By the way, they include a crude chart today. Crude had a small move today, not much to write home about. My trading mantra: I have one simple strategy. Any market, any chart, any time frame will keep you disciplined. You can find me every day on Twitter at Trading Fibs, and as always, I leave the crystal ball to the experts. I only trade what's in front of me and on my charts. Have yourselves a Blue Zone day, good night, and good trading.